It's all jumbly and weird. I don't know. I can't.
Was it like a parchment background?
I put a parchment. It was literally what I've been using for our game. So I was just kind of using the theme. I thought it'd be cool, but it looks so weird. And this blur effect is much smoother.
All right, we are now live.
All right.
All right. Hello to the world out there. I'm Amy, and I'm here with Jay Spence and the incredible game designers of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the game, Samuel Bryant and Gwen Ruelle. Hello, guys. Thank
Hello.
you. We're so happy to be here.
We just thought we could have a little chit chat about the newest Monty Python game. I'm reading the heading right now on StreamYard, the board game that says "neat." It's truly the game that says "neat." I guess we'll start off with something simple. But how much did you guys know about Monty Python before signing up to do the game? Were you fans?
Definitely, specifically of the Holy Grail movie. Like, it definitely was something in our childhood. At least for me, the parents would put it on to transfix you and shut you up for a while. I remember multiple English teachers using it. I think they just liked it. They're like, this is an example of satire. So they could just, if they were tired or maybe they were hungover, I don't know, they could just put the movie on and we would watch that. So it's been there forever. Obviously, everyone your whole life has been making references to it as well. So to get the chance to actually be able to interact with something you've been aware of your whole life is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like everybody has seen the movie, and I was always a huge fan, so we were super stoked, as Jay can attest when he first pitched the idea to us.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite my favorite Monty Python projects of the catalog for sure. So I was also very excited to be a part of it.
I think it's one of the most quoted comedies of all time.
Yes,
I know me personally, I always use what certain situations I'll think of, run away.
Right.
I think of that a lot.
I think, and luckily a lot of that stuff's in the game. You're going to get a lot of those lines right directly in the game, the cards and everything. They did a really good job putting all that material in there and all the Easter eggs.
I also think of the first arrival to Camelot. It's Camelot. It's only a model. I'll try not to get too quotey, but as you can see, I'm also money.
No, it's all right. Ever since designing this, all of my friends who have like any interest at all in this is every time they see me, they just we go through all the quotes again. They're like, "Oh my god, can we play test your like janky prototype of this the one we made years ago?" And then they're just constantly like hammering me with the quotes. I don't know. It's kind of like, at least for my friend group, it's like reinvigorated it in them as well.
Yeah,
right.
It's nostalgic and everything. Yeah, it's great.
So I don't know. It's fun for them to re-engage with it too.
If we're lucky, this game is going to like maybe give a resurgence to it. I think a lot of people, it's been so long, that movie is a classic, but I think it gets lost sometimes in all the other new movies out there and all the new hits. So I think it kind of brings people. I mean, I hadn't seen the movie in quite a while until it was time to research and start really talking about this game. So I think it's really going to hopefully bring, whether you get the game or not, or hopefully you get the game and really enjoy it enough to want to go back and check it out online.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say for sure. We watched the movie like 20 more times in the making of the game, and it's great. Like, I don't know, actually the more you watch it, like the jokes even get better and better. Like you can sort of see all the little nuances and things they were going for. It's such a fun time.
Jay, were they said you called them, was it whose initial idea was it for Monty Python the game? Was it yours or somebody else's?
I guess it was our staff, and we were just looking for licenses, more new, interesting. I mean, we're very into the licenses and doing different creative things with them. So we were looking for new game ideas, and we have a relationship with Bravado, and I think they may have pitched it to us as an idea, or like, hey, we have this available, maybe you'd be interested. And we kind of talked about it internally. Is it viable as a game? Is it going to work? Is it worth chasing? And that's when they came to me, really. I guess that point, it was like, as being kind of the resident tabletop game guy, And I said, yeah, it's kind of unusual. It's not a typical thing you would expect as a tabletop game experience, but I was like, hey, with all the jokes and the funny, I wanted, as long as we can make it something kind of funny and zany for people to play, it's not gonna be too serious like maybe other people are used to, but I knew we could do something with it. And I knew these guys over here would put something together. I'm a big fan of their stuff previously. We already kind of knew each other beforehand. So they were the first people I came to with, hey, can you make me something fun and silly?
That was going to be my next question. What made you think of Sam and Gwen? But you were already a fan, so
way ahead of you.
Easy.
Thank you.
So building, I guess, what goes into just making a game in general? You guys, what just goes? I know there's an idea, but then what?
It's so funny.
How does it go into that? How to build a board game?
It's just so funny sometimes thinking about it, because now, like, looking back on it, you work on these projects for years, and you're kind of like have almost like a mythology in your mind about like how we did this and what this was. And you almost like tell yourself a story about it. Sometimes it feels like they just kind of come out of the ether, but obviously that is not what happens at all. There was a lot of pathways to go down and things to try, but
I think one of the things that was different with this project was it's usually you have an idea and it's either, you kind of have a theme or you have a mechanic that you think would work really well with a theme. Whereas this one, we were given the theme and we knew we wanted to make a game surrounding that. And it's a theme with so much depth, right? Like there's all the different scenes that you can pull from, all the different jokes, all the different ways you can go. And so we had like a tone and an idea for that, but we really developed this game for Monty Python and the Holy Grail, rather than, like taking a game that we thought would be good and then putting that on top of, reskinning it, say, to be a Monty Python game. So that was probably the most fun part, was just incorporating every little thing about the movie into the game and trying to incorporate it in a way that it made sense for a game just as well as it made sense in the movie. And that process was amazing. I really loved having just like such an in-depth theme to work with. Usually you're like, it's about, an underwater city or something, and you're sort of vaguely use that. But this was so much more strictly about the theme and incorporating it in.
Any challenges or difficulty with sort of designing within that license that was different than your previous games?
I guess it's like once, we got the mechanic, it's just kind of funny that, the movie is about the search for the Holy Grail, which, they never obtain. So this is also a game in that vein. It's kind of like going around with this idea that you will become valorous enough to be able to obtain the Grail, which of course you don't, because this game is irreverent, just like the movie. And for winning, you are rewarded with being promptly arrested for all the mayhem and murder you have caused.
That was one of the most fun parts. We're like, but how do you win this game? Because nobody can actually find the Grail. We can't actually put the Grail in the game. And so like coming up with the ending was probably one of the hardest but most fun parts. It's just such a bizarre ending to try and incorporate into a board game.
Yeah. And I guess once we have the structure, like the hardest part is really, figuring like, here are all the major scenes, here are the major jokes, like how do these fit into the mechanics? How to like actually get this in a way that when you're playing the card, it feels like earned rather than just slapped on. And I don't know, one of my favorite sequences in the whole movie is just Sir Lancelot like assaulting the swamp castle and just murdering multiple people, and then kind of being like, oh, sometimes I get a bit carried away. So we got some images from that scene of him like hacking down wedding guests, and like the cards are more like push your luck cards, where you're pulling random cards from the deck, adding to your stack of cards, trying to get to the quest goal total. So those are like kind of a risk. They're kind of like I don't know, a bit of bravado and like going forward, but it might blow up in your face, and you might just end up murdering a whole bunch of innocent wedding guests. So just kind of that, just kind of like binding it to that, and also trying to find like a representative image for all these moments was tough too. Like pulling from this old grainy film, which Gwen did a great job as the graphic designer. I was just literally going through frame by frame with the film that you relayed to us, Jay, like just going through the file and being like, oh no, that's too blurry, this is that, and then giving him to Gwen, and it was so dark and muddled, and Gwen like pulling it out so you could actually be able to see it. and be able to recognize what it was. That took a lot of time. That was definitely, but it was really fun to literally go frame by frame through this entire movie and be like, what is the most representative like face and emotion and movement for each of these scenes?
You know, I'm thinking before we go any further, we should really get to know more about you two. We didn't really get to talk about like where you're coming from previous to this game. Like you've got such great games already in your catalog of design. I think you guys should tell us a little bit of that, where you came from before you got here.
Yeah, so we're a design team and a small publisher, Runaway Parade Games, and our first game was a game called Fire Tower that we launched. I don't know, 2018, I think.
Once again, there's the mythology. It's like, when did this happen?
When did this happen? And we, did that through crowdfunding and then did an expansion for that as well. We recently published a new game called Smug Owls, which is a party game with riddles that we didn't design. So this is the first game that we're publishing, but we're not the designers behind it. But just like going through that process of building those games. And then we've worked on other projects as well with other publishers, and we've got new games coming. So it's been, I don't know. I just love the whole process of design and also the product design of it as well. And I think that was one of the big things with this game. Because of incorporating the catapult and having sort of the product design really came into it, because of course you can't just make the design of Monty Python without thinking about what each card is going to be from the movie and all of that, all of those aspects as well. So luckily we had some experience with that as well and could bring that in.
Yeah, and that's how we met Jay too. We were at an Unpub before we had launched our Kickstarter for Fire Tower. That's for all those years ago now. I think that was like 6 years ago, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's really time flying by. But yeah, I found you guys on Kickstarter. I actually backed the game. I own it. I played a lot actually, so it's a good time. And then
thank you.
Went and met them in person and just kept their contact for just such occasion.
One question I thought of was, when you build whether it's Monty Python or any other kind of game, like, do you know what you want? I guess what the end game is, like how you want people to feel when they're playing it, and how, like, do you make it easy to understand? Is like, are some things harder? Like, which aspects of the game are easier to adapt than others?
I think with this one, we really wanted to have like a really satisfying gameplay loop. And I think this was probably one of the more difficult things, where it's like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the strategy of this, but also like retaining like the silliness and the irreverence of the original movie, where it's just like, this is kind of zany. Anything can happen. Like, why am I getting points for turning in dead bodies? There's like, every time one of your followers dies, they get added to the card of the dead. And if you manage to get down to the village location, which is down there, you can actually like turn all those in for victory points. And just the fact that we could do that.
Yeah,
like, if
only in a Monty Python and the Holy Grail movie could you have a dead collector and a card of the dead.
And like, you're like, oh, that's how I beat you out, turning in those corpses. And that's what was so wonderful and kind of freeing about this in some ways. It's just how, I don't know, it is a satire. It is ridiculous. It's like pointing fun at like the Arthurian legend and just kind of deconstructing it. And I always kind of imagine it's like imagining like these real, like, mythological, historical figures and like what they would really be like, which is like a whole bunch of like brash buffoons almost, just kind of storming through the lands.
Like any good tabletop game, there are multiple ways to win, but you two chose the weirdest ways to win. The types of winning that no one will ever experience probably in any other game.
Yeah, perfectly put.
Probably.
Yeah. Now I'm forgetting the original question. I've looped all the way around in my brain.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll follow up with that and give you a little extra question there, kind of related, is are there any particular mechanics, details about this game that you're sort of most proud of, your favorite moments that are in that game that people can look forward to?
So one of my favorite parts of the game was that we wanted people to complete quests to supposedly be questing for the Holy Grail. And that was sort of one of the main mechanics of the game. So, you're moving around the board and you're gathering cards and you're sort of building a hand, sort of like similar to some deck building games or something like that, because you'll use those exact cards to quest in the game. And questing is kind of has a little bit of a blackjack element. Everybody's trying to add up the numbers of their stack to reach a quest goal. You have your cards in your hands, and then all your opponents will sort of take on, they represent the challenges of the quest, and they get to sort of battle you in that. But what's so cool about that mechanic is that, yes, the cards can be used as numbers to try and reach, say whatever 15 is your quest goal or something like that. But you've also got an action on every single one of those cards. And the cards, as Sam was saying, they're all thematically pulled in. So something that's more of a push your luck element might be from one scene or something, and the insults from the French knight allow you to sort of take down your opponents and things like that. And that part of the game is super fun. It's like it's almost like its own little game in and of itself when you get to
it's
quest.
a mini game, yeah.
It is definitely a mini game, and that's my favorite part. And I've never quite seen anything like it. And it was just, we wanted to come up with something that was unique, that sort of represented that feeling of a quest. And I'm super proud of how that came out.
Yeah. And there's I don't know, you can go deeper with it. It's you could just try to win the quest, but there's also ways you can shield certain cards with symbols. You can also collect little angel symbols on the cards, which can earn you extra points as the quester. So
you can launch cows.
Yeah.
Right.
You can watch that at any time if you have a card. So I don't know as Gwen said, that's really satisfying. I like that a lot. One of my favorite things is one of the followers is the famous historian Frank, who, if you remember, he's just he comes out and he's explaining the legend of Arthur, and he's cut down. So when you draw him, you immediately just put him in the card of the dead, and you get 2 victory points. So it's sometimes things are just happening in the game. You're oh, well, here he is. Oh, now I have to discard this floor. I get points for him being dead. So it's those things. I don't know. I really also enjoy that when you battle the Black Knight, you get to, take his limbs with you, which then enhance your powers in the game, either allowing you to draw more cards if you take an arm or get additional movement points on your turn for each leg you take. And then by the end, he's just a trunk who you can still fight, but you have nothing to gain from fighting him at that point. So it's just, if you end up fighting him, it's just a nuisance. And it's just wasting your time.
He never stops coming. He just keeps hunting you all over the board. No arms and legs. But yeah, the questing's a good opportunity for strategy, I think, because it's not overly complicated. The general rules and how to win the quest is very straightforward. But with 2 ways to use the cards, I mean, you're constantly thinking, if I use this card now, I'm not going to be able to use it later. And if you use it one way for the number, and then you missed out on the action. It's that's that constant, when do I use the right card to win? And I'm sure it creates a lot of arguments.
Actions and things like that. The one of the things that I'm really proud of actually as well is just it's what I said and then what Sam said exactly. It's there is a lot of strategy to things like questing. There's a lot of strategy to how you build that hand during the game, and then it's full of a ton of silly stuff that can just totally spin it around in another direction. And that's my favorite kind of game, is something where I have a path, I'm headed down, I care about what I do, it actually matters. It's not any action you take means whatever. So there's a lot of strategy in that, but at any point, everything can get turned on its head and it can go in a different direction than you expected. So you can't just plan out your perfect game and see it through.
It feels a lot like a movie where everything goes awry at every possible moment.
Love it.
I have a flip side question, actually, while we're talking about favorites. What any mechanics or details that you actually had that you really liked, maybe, or you were really interested in but didn't make it to the final game? Something you were working on the early prototype, it just didn't work, or whatever.
I always think about this. I feel aggrieved to certain characters in the movie. I mean, the shrubbery is in there. The shrubbery made it. It's a relic. It can overcome any other card in the game because this is something that can even pacify the Knights of Knee. But Roger the Shrubber just didn't make the final cut.
About Roger the Shrubber.
I don't know. It's the shrubbery's there, and you're kind of thinking about it. And you've got all these other characters, and you got these cards, and you're like, what does he do exactly there for a moment? I care about him, but maybe he's a bit of a deep cut. And it's just he didn't make it through the full journey of the game. So I feel he got left behind, but maybe he'll forgive me.
Did the Enchanter make it?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. His.
Oh my gosh, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, his action is you can when you have him as a follower, every turn you can just choose to have him basically launch a fireball at a random location, which might also end up hitting you as well. Which
You can take yourself out with Tim Enchanter. Yeah. I think. Oh, we did originally plan to do a whole additional mechanic to the quest where you're hurling insults as the French knight, and we scaled that back a tiny bit. It was very fun to hurl the insults, but at some point we're like, we want to keep this, streamlined.
Yep.
We don't want it to be too rules heavy for people. We want it to be an accessible game that everyone can play. Having this whole section that's like how to hurl an insult. So you still get to insult each other, but it's not quite as like a separate mechanic that you have to learn a whole set of rules for, which I think was the best, but that was really fun to do.
That's something we had to worry about a lot. Was just the balance between, is it too rules heavy for people who aren't serious gamers but love Monty Python? We don't want to scare them away, and if there's too many rules, it's not, all those jokes are worthless because they'll never get to them. They'll give up, or they'll just lose interest and kind of zone out. I've played with a few people who aren't gamers who are get instantly overwhelmed by those rules, and you can see them sort of just fade away as everyone else is playing. So I definitely don't want that to happen. And you guys did a good job of the balancing of making it interesting for everybody, I think.
Yeah, we try to do that with all of our game design, where it's like the barrier for entry, we want it to be low. We want you to be able to play and understand like what you're doing when your objective is, but obviously you will benefit from thinking about it strategically. So people who want to think about it deeper will have an edge in the game, but it won't be that they're the only one who knows what's happening, and everyone else is closed out, like you said, and they just kind of shut down and stare at the table, and that other person takes their turn for them. Yeah, and as you said, like we want all fans of the movie to be able to play this, both the heavy gamers and also people who have maybe never played a tabletop game before, and like maybe this is their first foray into it. So definitely want it to be accessible, but as we said, you can kind of really go far into your head with the questing and decide like how you're building your deck, and like, do I have enough to win this quest as well? Do I have the holy hand grenade, which will allow you to blow 2 cards out of an opponent's stack? That one made it in there as well. That's one of my favorite cards.
Oh, right. You just reminded me, the strategy of before you even quest, you have to make sure your cards are any good. You have to wait. You can't just quest anytime.
No, you have to build a perfect hand for the quest before you even start. So that's that whole thing of moving.
And also kind of like the sense of like kind of redlining it too. You're like, maybe I don't have quite enough cards as I need. It's like if you fill your hand out, you'll probably be able to overcome certain quests. But it's like, if someone else is doing it with the bare minimum, they're going to get to they're going to surpass you in points very quickly. So it's kind of like, how long can I wait? Like, how much do I have to worry about how great these cards are? And then sometimes you're like, maybe I'll just chance it and see if it works out for me.
And you also have your followers to help you out. So a lot of the followers are quest specific, so they'll only help you during the quest. And then a lot of the followers will help you while you're moving around the board and in challenges with each other and with the Black Knight and stuff like that. So finding the followers that can help you with the quest can be super helpful.
Cool. Do we want to talk about the stretch goals a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, we've already passed one stretch goal, and we're working on our second. So our first goal was over 200,000, and we're essentially sort of increasing the ammunition for your catapult, which we haven't really talked about, but we'll get to that. But in the game, you only currently get the cow, and we're sort of just kind of going crazy with the ammunition, so everyone gets to have a whole barnyard full of people, hopefully by the time this backer kit is done. And we can, we're very excited. So we've offered now the chicken, we've unlocked the chicken, and we're coming up on the pig, which will be $224,999, because of course, because we're ridiculous like that.
I like that sense. You're like, I don't know, I'm not feeling the cow right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to like strike you down with this pig.
Right, we're hoping that maybe that'll open up a whole new strategy. People kind of figure out which meeples fly the best and in which direction.
Nice.
Yeah,
we'll hear about that later once the game is out there in the world.
That was cool. That's something I'm really excited about, because initially, we're kind of not sure, like, how far we can go with certain components, and we thought of, you just use the cow card to launch the meeples. So the fact that there's like a fully functional catapult that actually launches them is
it's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
So excited.
Yeah,
in a way, from our side of things, stretch goals were sort of a challenge to figure out, because we put so much attention to detail to the core game. You know, all the components are already wood in their quality, and other than building a full plastic metal catapult, which seems a little cost prohibitive, but otherwise, you know, and that just building it is kind of a fun part. I hope that people are going to enjoy, and having that sort of 3D actual moving element. But otherwise, the whole game sort of is already high end and premium for what it is. So upgrading the game ended up being a little bit of a challenge for us. It's like, where do you go from here? So, but we just, that's where we came up with the Meeples idea, because why not?
So like with all the detail that went into the game, so can you say is this the best game that you've gotten to be a part of, that you've gotten to build, or is that just me assuming?
No pressure.
Wow.
I should say, is it your favorite? Is it your favorite game that you guys have ever put together?
Oh my gosh, I could never say
Yeah,
that.
I don't think I could ever like choose one over the other. I feel like they're all like
That's fair.
Our weird offspring that we have to like be very cautious. You know, if I say that, like one of our other games will like come after me.
Yeah.
Like, have you forgotten about me? You don't care about me anymore. I mean, it's definitely up there. I'm as excited about this as I was, you know, when our first game launched on Kickstarter, Fire Tower. So I don't know. It's so exciting to, like I said, to know this is going to be a tangible thing and people are going to be playing it, and I'm going to drag it around and play it with all my friends, and they're finally going to get to see the finished version. So yeah, I'd say our enthusiasm is just the same as our other games.
There's just nothing better than, you know, having a game that you worked on or you designed or really were part of in any way, and having it, you know, get to people and them playing it and hearing the feedback and everything like that. I mean, it's just so exciting. That's like totally why we got into this business, and that feeling hasn't wavered at all.
No.
I have a general.
Is it?
Sorry, Amy, what you say?
Sorry, how has the feedback been? I just glitched over here for a second. The whole screen just glitched for a second. I'm sorry. We've been dealing with that earlier, so we were hoping it wouldn't do that again. But anyway.
What was my question? General design question for those aspiring designers out there. Any general lessons you can give for someone who's wanting to make their first game and hopefully maybe on Kickstarter one day?
I did want to give a call out before, because we mentioned that we met you at Unpub, or we saw you there.
Yeah.
That is an incredible resource. So for anybody who's interested in designing a game, absolutely check out Unpub, UNPUB for it's just a resource for unpublished games. They run great events where you get to show off your game before it has found a publisher.
They do this at all the major conventions in the US. So if you sign up, you can sign up for time slots. Like, you can interact with people, like meet a whole bunch of people who are very excited to help you play test your prototype.
And I think my one bit of advice that would go with exactly that is find your community. It doesn't have to be the first people who you meet who are willing to play test your game, but just find your group of people, because other people are the reason that, you know, we love games, and they're the ones who are going to get your design to a good place. So, you know, we just were helped by everybody along the way, and are so grateful. And it's just an awesome community. Like, the Unpub community is incredible. If you go to conventions, you meet amazing people. It's just a really welcoming experience that we had. So we hope that, you know, if you're interested, that you can find that community as well.
Yeah, just being immersed in the whole thing and seeing other people doing it, and like just learning the steps, and just figuring out if you want to try to, you know, pitch to publishers, or maybe you want to become your own publisher and crowdfund things. I don't know. Yeah, the only way to really do it is to get into the mix, because you're also going to have to find people to play your game with you hundreds of times. Which is just relying on yourself or like one or two friends. Eventually, they are going to lose their patience with you.
We know from personal experience.
Yeah, I second that. Those Unpub spots are ideal. I mean, coming from the developer's side, I mean, I went there looking for the next thing, looking for designers, and even more specifically, unfinished games that were sort of on that cusp to sort of, is it something maybe a publisher like us would want to pick up and take off with? And I believe I met you, and your game was already right to the end. You were just about to go on Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, I love this game. We'd love to have it. But you're like, nope, it's kind of our baby. We already have a plan. We're going to Kickstarter. We already got a whole thing. I found you too late. and I missed out on that game. But luckily, we
got-
shared contact, and I got to come out to you later.
No, I've definitely like seen. I've never seen this anywhere else, but I've definitely like like the Unpub Prime event. I've seen people like sign a game, like you're like playtesting a game, and then someone just a publisher happens to be there, and like, yeah, I'd sign this, and you're just like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah.
It was like I was just sitting in on someone signing their game in this playtest, and that was before we had even made a game yet. I was just like, it was blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, as Gwen said, like immerse yourself in the community, and like Unpub is a pretty, especially if you're already going to a convention and you have a prototype, like just look up Unpub, sign up for a slot. It is terrifying. We were also terrified the first time we were throwing off anything we made, but that's like normal. Don't feel like you're having an issue if you're afraid. Like that is just what happens, and you just have to push through it.
I mean, like a lot of art, you have to put yourself out there, and you do risk sort of egg on your face.
Yeah.
And even if you've got a really great product, you never know for sure until like, the public really gets a hold of it to know that you really have something exciting out there. So it takes a lot to be a game designer, just not only understanding games to make it, but putting yourself out there and letting people essentially tear it apart and tell you what's broken and what you need to fix for the next prototype. So it happens. You're never going to get it perfect right away on the first time, maybe even not even the 20th, but it's about getting that feedback. That's the only way you're going to improve the game and really kind of get to a level where that game really is ready for Kickstarter or really ready for a publisher.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, for us, like, I don't know, the litmus test almost is you just keep hammering away until everyone's response is just like, oh, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I don't really have much to say. Can we play again? And you're like, okay, like we've got something.
Yeah.
And you're like, you'll know. I mean, there's always like the odd person who will have like some kind of advice that's basically like, you should change this into a whole different type of game and completely like destroy it and make it something else. But I would say with feedback from people with playtesting, if you hear like if it's the 30th person who told you this one element is confusing or not quite engaging, like believe like the hive minds, like that they're onto something. If you just get like one errant comment, you don't have to follow every piece of advice. But if you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, even if it's something you really cherish, like just be willing to bend.
I think the unique part too of game design versus, I don't know, making a comic, making illustrations, any kind of art form. The difference I think is people can come to you and say that art doesn't look right, or they have their opinions on your art style and what you did with choices of color and all those things. But at the end of the day, it's sort of your vision and it's your announcement to the world. It's your art for the world, and at the end of the day, it comes down to you and only you, really. I think, unless it's highly commercial, maybe you have somebody you have to report to, but otherwise, if it's your own baby, it's you at the end of the day. But unlike with games, you're putting it out there in the world for them to interact with it. They have to interact with it, and more importantly, they have to enjoy it. If nobody is having fun with your game, there's no point in putting that game out there, and it's really a waste of time to ignore those comments and once again, you have to pick and choose your battles. You have to find that one guy's got a problem with that one thing, but you're like, you know what, no one else seems to mind it, so everyone's going to have their own little nitpick. But the big stuff, the parts where people are getting stuck and they're like, listen, I just keep getting stuck in this part, it's not fun, it's not working, something's weird, something's off, it's just not that fun. That's where you have to go listen. You have to listen to the public, because they're the ones that are going to have to take this game, and this game is going to have to live on for a lot longer than the time you took to just make it. So
it's so true. It requires so much more feedback than other art forms. I think that's a really good point.
Similar, I guess, into movies too. Movies work away that a little bit, but at the end of the day, they rent a movie, they see a movie. A lot of people just see a movie once, and that's the only time, and they have an opinion. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, maybe it's mixed, but at the end of the day, they move on. But games, they're literally meant to be played again and again and again. And if your game gets played once and they're like, nah, no, and it gets on a shelf, you kind of lost the battle there. That's obviously what we're looking to avoid here. I think we've succeeded. I mean, I think based just on your previous games, that's kind of the reason you two were ideal for this kind of project, is because, as you said, your games tend to be interesting and they have interesting mechanics and interesting themes and they're fun, but they're not bogged down by too many rules to the point where it's all that crunchy games, that you see a lot on the crowdfunding, is the tons of miniatures and a billion rules and giant rule books this thick that you have to get through, and you won't really fully understand the game until maybe the third time playing it, and then you're sort of like in the strategy. So you're telling everybody, oh, just stick with it. then we'll all know what's going on. But here, I think
I
you're
promise
on board.
Yeah. I love those games personally too, but
Sure.
I don't want to make them.
There's the time and a place. It's really heavy. I mean, for those people who can do that, make a game that in depth, and it actually works really well. It's
Yeah,
it's a great
it's
skill
very
set.
impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed by them. But you have to have fun on your end, right? If you're designing games and not having a good time, I think you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So you got to do what
No,
you guys enjoy, right?
It is a fun game to do your own work on because or a fun job to do your own work on. Yeah, because you just keep playing it.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, if I'm not mad that I lost, then this game isn't working.
Yeah, that's our other barometer. Like, how competitive are we getting? If we're not competitive at all, like me and Gwen were playing this game, and if I'm saying stuff like, "What is going on? I can't believe you beat me in that quest," like we've like had a lot of like engaged like interaction playing the Monty Python and the Holy Grail game. So yeah, once we like start getting heated, we're like, oh, like I'm really invested in this game now.
To be cliche, a lot of games always have a winner. Many games have winners, but really it's about the journey over the destination. Right, as they say.
This is what I'm always telling myself because I lose quite often. So.
Right.
It's about the journey. It's about
everyone loses this game.
Yeah, that's true. It was very fun to make the winner get arrested. That was great.
The last question I had was, so has working on Monty Python given you any ideas for another film adaptation for a game? What do you, anything come up or not yet?
Maybe dream licenses.
Ooh,
anything you'd love to adapt?
Yeah, well, I want to make I don't know if you're familiar with Calvin and Hobbes, but I would. This will never happen because this license has never been given out for anything. But I would love to make a Spaceman Spiff. Game.
Oh, okay.
That would be amazing. I don't know. Like pretty much my dream licenses are things that won't happen. Also, during this process, like you're a magician, Jay. I don't even know. We have no skill in like figuring out how to like get a license. It was like you got it, and I was just like, I don't know what you did, but it did feel like magic. I was like, well, now we're working on a project. This is crazy, and that's like a whole nother skill set.
Yeah,
one that we do not have at all. But yeah, if it was a dream, it would probably be that for me. Or I would like to make. I don't know if anyone remembers like the Redwall series.
Ooh, yeah,
I would love to make like a Martin the Warrior game. I don't know. How about you, Gwen?
Oh, I'm so bad at coming up with stuff on the spot like this. There's this indie comic artist who lives in Brooklyn, and this is about the level of license. I'm like, maybe. That's why Monty Python totally blew our minds. I will say, we were like, what? I can't believe we get to do this. But there is this comic artist named Alex Crocus who is based out of New York where we are. And I just think he's hilarious. He has like this little, it's a raccoon comic. And I've always been like, that would make a great game.
But have we written him?
No. I know.
We're always like, I don't know. I don't want to inconvenience them.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I don't have anybody that anybody's heard of. Well, maybe someone has heard of Alex.
I feel like your dream,
fantastic.
Your dream might be more attainable than mine.
Well, once this game is out, I'm sure you'll be dreaming bigger. I would hope.
Yeah. It is really truly a dream come true to see this coming to life. I can't wait.
I love the enthusiasm is so infectious. I love it. It's got me excited. I'm excited to see it in person and to hear what everyone thinks of it. So I know that's all the questions I have. Did you have anything else, or did you guys?
I'll let you two give your final goodbyes, your notes, whatever you want to leave people with.
Yeah. Now our brains are just wandering. Now we'll be revealed as the idiots we are. I don't know. I mean, I guess the final words I would leave it with, if you want like a silly, irreverent romp, like the movie. I mean, if you enjoy the movie and interacting with it and immersing yourself with the characters and having like silly reversals and generally like menacing other people while trying to prove you're valorous by doing terrible things, then you will enjoy the game.
Awesome. Awesome.
And we love you.
Thank you, Sam and Gwen, again for joining me and Jay today. And this really everyone involved. Jay,
Thank you
Scott,
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
you're very
No, it's
welcome.
been-
And this was such a fun interview, getting to know you guys and to know more about the game. So I think all I can say is everyone go check out the game on BackerKit, go pledge, and check out Sam and Gwen's other games. And that's it for today. Thanks for everyone for being here.
Yeah, you'll find them under Runaway Parade. That's their design name. So you'll find everything on Google with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you so
guys.
much. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great one.
Bye.